Hi and welcome to another industry news update. I'm Ruža Živkošić. As Victoria lifts its current lockdown, freight operators are reminded to stay vigilant about safety and hygiene. The Victorian Transport Association is calling on the industry to closely follow state and national rules and regulations to prevent transmission. Its CEO Peter Anderson wants drivers to familiarise themselves with new requirements under the Victorian border crossing permit directions, which allow for multiple entries during the 14-day validity period. The association is also advocating for more testing centre locations across the state. Here's what Peter has to say. Thanks for joining us today, Peter. Would you please explain if there is enough testing centres across the state for truck drivers?
Every state has its own rules for border crossings, and testing stations are really important for us to be able to meet the regulations that are out in front of us. We have 2 testing stations that are randomised in Victoria, but we have, of course, many others that are located within shopping centres and medical centres. But, of course, you can't park a prime mover next to those testing centres. So we need on-road drive-through heavy vehicle testing centres. At the moment in Victoria, we've only got 2.
And what are your concerns in regards to the current lifting of the lockdown in Victoria? Are there any concerns with that?
Well, of course, we still have the regime of a 3-day test every 3 days coming into Victoria. So interstate truck drivers have this issue with having a test with a pipette shoved up the back of their nose, almost to their brain cavity, every 3 days, and it is a huge imposition, huge discomfort, and one that leads to blood noses and the like.
So what's the feel like amongst those freight operators and truck drivers out there? What's the feedback been so far?
Well, the industry has done a very good job in maintaining its disciplines and processes to ensure that we don't spread the virus throughout the community. We travel millions of trips every week around Australia to deliver the goods that people need. Keeping in mind, if we didn't deliver the goods, a lot of people would start to die. But seriously, the real issue for us is the fact that the industry has done a good job. We want to continue to do a good job. We want to meet the regulations. However, we need some assistance to help us do exactly that. We'd like to see a change in the testing regime. We'd like to see a more passive test taken during the week, every third day. Still have the weekly test through the accredited pathology laboratory, because we don't want to stop that credibility, so to speak. But we don't want to see that PET type nasal testing at the back of the nasal cavity every 3 days. We'd rather do that secondary testing ourselves in at-home kits.
Okay. And what do you hope to convey to the industry? What message would you like to send to them?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the industry for the way it's been able to react and perform the way it has. I know of many companies that have gone well and truly above and beyond what the regulations are to ensure that not only their businesses are safe and secure in this pandemic, but also anybody that enters their sites and wherever their drivers go. It's been fantastic to see some of the extra measures that people have taken. The real issue for us, though, is the fact that we are an essential service during this pandemic. We are an essential service that needs to be supported. We're not just hanging off the back, and we need to be recognised as frontline performers to maintain everybody's livelihood.
And just how do we tackle freight being moved in between Victoria and New South Wales, with New South Wales still currently in lockdown?
Well, of course, we're going to have these peaks of contamination, if you like. We're going to, at the moment, it's New South Wales' turn. Victoria has certainly lived through it. We had nearly 130 days of lockdown in last year, and of course, we've gone just finishing our 5th lockdown. So we're certainly used to the process, and this is the first time New South Wales has been in lockdown the way it has. But this is going to continue, I think, for quite some time throughout Australia in different locations. And we have to be able to react accordingly. The amount of trucks that travel across the border every day, there's over 15,000 across the Murray every day. And what that means is that we need to ensure those people are accountable, they're traceable, that we can track where they've been, and they're maintaining their hygiene at all times.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, look, it's just really important, though, that we understand that the governments need to understand that as an essential service, we need some more support. So what we're doing is we're asking the federal government at the moment to actually recognise us as an essential service, our whole road freight industry in Australia. Keep in mind that most of Australia is in a state of emergency, state-based, state-driven, but they're in a state of emergency. So while we're in a state of emergency, heavy vehicle transport should be declared an essential service. That would mean that we get greater financial support, but also greater structural support through the Department of Health and Human Services in every state. So the health departments in every state. And of course, we need to be recognised accordingly for that to happen.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for clarifying that and for joining us here today for a chat.
Thanks, Risen. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.